My name is BJ Kratz, and I'm the Southeast District Fisheries Supervisor for the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. Well, this year we didn't have any issues, as you would expect, open winter and stuff. I don't anticipate any winter kill to speak of this winter on our lake, so quite a change from 2022. Water levels are down probably 12 to 24 inches depending on where you're at. You know, some places in the district got more precipitation than others last year, so water levels have kind of, you know, responded accordingly to the precipitation we received last year. But overall, we're in good shape again. It'd be nice to get a little push of water this spring, but we'll see what happens. Walleye populations are good in the Southeast District. Last year we had 26 walleye lakes where our gill net catch exceeded 10 per net night. That's kind of an index of a good fishery. The Southeast District has 144 active water bodies this year, which is the record. About 61,000 acres of fishing water available out there. So a lot of resource out there. Walleye populations are pretty strong. I would say they're probably as good as they've ever been. Well, I'll have to point everybody to our website. It's a great place. I even use it myself. I mean, there's a lot of good information on there. It's pretty simple to, you know, if you have a lake of interest in mind, you can find out a lot of information, including, you know, up-to-date catch information that we collect each year on lakes. Most of the lakes, not all lakes are sampled each year, so that's why you have a year or two missing data sometimes in there. But you know, we've got good walleye populations, growing lakes in that Dakota region. Medina country has a lot of lakes, both, you know, south and to the east, and then north of Medina also has good walleye populations. A little bit east of Jamestown, we've got a couple lakes that have been traditionally good. You know, Fox Lake has always been a pretty good walleye lake. Middle Eccleston is coming on now. That's a pretty new lake. We've got, you know, just a lot of resource out there for walleye populations. Pike populations are stable. We have, you know, several or better lakes. Probably Twin Lake in Lamoille County is one of the better lakes. It's just got a high density pike population in it. Pipe stem reservoirs and other traditional water, lots of public access, lots of shore fishing access for those people that like to shore fish. Pike populations are in good shape there. Some nice fish available there as well. Coldwater Lake down in McIntosh County is another one that's got a pretty good pike population currently. If you go over to Grass Lake, you know, Richland County, so there's definitely options out there. Ashtabula's pike population is stable too, with some potential for trophy fish. The crappie populations are pretty good in, you know, several of our impoundments in the Southeast District. Jamestown Reservoir is probably the Cadillac for sure. It's got a good population. Our annual crappie assessment that we do each year revealed last year a catch rate that exceeded the 10-year average. Lots of fish, you know, 10.5 to 11.5 inches. We had reports this winter of, you know, 13, even some 14-inch fish coming out of there. We've got a couple year classes in there, so I expect that to remain stable. You know, as long as we have upcoming year classes, it should be good. And then Ashtabula was another one that kind of came online this winter. We had a lot of good reports for crappie fishing out there as well. You know, some of the smaller places, Dead Cold Creek has got a good crappie population. So there's some definitely resources out there all over the district for crappies. Well, you know, in the summer there's some bluegill opportunities too. Like Ashtabula, like I mentioned, for crappie was also pretty good for bluegill this winter. That population seems to be expanding a little bit. I think, you know, for the last couple of years anyway, I've received pretty good reports of angling over there for bluegills, and our electrofishing that we do each spring has revealed that population seems to be expanding somewhat. Otherwise, we have smaller impoundments too, like a Brewer Lake or Clawson Springs or Heinrich Martin, that typically have bluegill populations that are readily available. And then Pheasant Lake, you know, down in Dickey County has come on pretty good the last several years, and providing we don't have any winter kills the next few years, that could be a really great bluegill option for folks that like to target bluegill. You know, perch are one of those things, you love them, but you don't love them when they're 4 inches long. And unfortunately, a lot of our lakes, you know, we kind of have a slowing of the growth as the populations, you know, go through time until you have a winter kill situation. And as you know, 2022 was pretty tough. We had about 34 winter kills documented in the Southeast District, and some of those were pretty good perch lakes. It's not a bad thing though, because we got those stocked right away in the spring of 23, and it usually takes 3 to 4 years for those fish to restock enough to where anglers can actually have an opportunity to catch those perch. And the size is good because the growth is good when you have a reset like that. So I anticipate some of those lakes, primarily again in that Cleveland, north of Cleveland area, some of the smaller perch lakes should be really good. Maybe this winter, 2025, but for sure 2026, there should be some opportunity out there. Yeah, we've got a couple things for 2025. One thing I'm kind of excited about is a telemetry study we're going to do with Valley City State University. We're going to put some transmitters and walleyes of various sizes to track their movements through the year, open water and ice, just to kind of see what they do in a typical prairie shallow lake, like we have so many in the Southeast District and even some, more so in the Central District. So that information we get from that should be good for anglers and certainly interesting, because there's always been questions on why don't the fish bite? Where are they at? What do they do all winter? Are they places that people don't go, or are they just inactive? And hopefully we can answer some of those questions with a study like that. We also have a potential tree reef project we're going to work with the Corps of Engineers on Pipestem Reservoir to potentially assess overwinter utilization by, like young of the year crappies and so forth, to see if we can maybe boost that overwinter survival, because that seems to be the bottleneck of establishing a crappie population. We've got a few pike we're going to try to tag probably in Ashtabula this year. The large pike, we do a pike assessment every several years in that one. We can get into where we can get those big fish and tag them just to get an idea what we have for a pike population there. And then also we have a tagging project that we're going to do on Mosier, WPA, north of Valley City. Basically just the same type of deal we've been doing like we did on Twin last year, where we'll tag, a bunch of fish and try to estimate exploitation and see what, anglers are doing out there. And it's kind of unique because it's an exclusive walleye fishery. There are no other fish species in there besides fathead minnows. So we know that people up there, when they're fishing, aren't fishing for anything besides walleye. As an angler, you always want to think about the spring as being a time where fish are readily accessible to the shore, shoreline. They're usually fairly close. Pike and perch and walleye all run the shorelines for reproductive purposes, and they can be easily accessible if you're willing to fish offshore. And we have a lot of those opportunities, like I said, particularly like on Pipestem or Jamestown Reservoir, Ashtabula. So you want to think shallow in the spring. So it should be pretty good. Like to see a little runoff to help things out, but we'll see what we get.